Hi there, my name is Kate. Welcome back to my channel. This is the tutorial for the Latvian braid as part of the my stocking pattern. What we'll be doing here is this part, the braid portion. We're going to add that around the heel that we've done. So we've picked up all the stitches for the Afterthought heel, slipped back so that our starting place is the middle of the bottom of the foot. So all of our rounds begin and end right down the back seam. So this is back where I've just slipped the stitches so that we're right back there again. So here are my two ends and we're gonna get started. So we have the setup row done for the braid. So the next two rows, and you can choose to only do one or other of these rows to get just a nice half braid, just raised edge around them. I've done that on a couple of the ones that I've made. What I'm going to do show here though is the full braid. So the full Latvian braid is basically three rows. The first is your setup row where you knit one, alternating in the colors that you're going to use. This is a 2-color project, so I've knit one in each color, and we're back to the beginning of the row. Sorry. The second row involves purling with both colors in front, where each time you're going to take the yarn for the first row under the other yarn. So we're gonna get started and I'll show you what that looks like. So here's our first one. Woohoo! So there's yarn number 1, and then we're gonna put it out of the way. And then yarn number 2 comes underneath it. So see how it's under, there's one, there's the other, we're gonna take it under. Then we're gonna purl with this one, where it was brought under. And then we're gonna put it out of the way, and purl with this one, way, purl with this one, and we're basically that's all you're doing, is just bringing the yarn up from under the previous one. So we go all the way around, and you will notice that as you get going, that this is starting to create this really pretty striping, barber pulling type thing, and you may decide for yours that just the one row, especially around the heel and the toe, is enough. I personally think that the full braid on the cuff is pretty necessary for structurally and design-wise, but for the heel and toe, personally I'm kind of torn. Some of them I've made where I just wanted the little raised edge, and some of them I've done with the full braid. So this one we did full braid on the toe, so we're doing full braid here on the heel as well. So as we go, as you can see, the yarns are going to get a little bit gnarled and tangled. As much as possible, what I like to do is keep both in the same hand while doing this, which is so different from the way that I knit the body, and then just flipping them in my hand. If I can keep them doing that, then I can keep all that gnarly twist that's happening kind of away from the knitting, and I can make my life easier. You can untwist the yarn if it gets twisty and tangly. See how it's doing this? What I just generally do is kind of hold it up. You can't actually see me do that. Hold it up and then widen my fingers and just sort of push that twist down a little bit. And then I have a nice big space where there's no twist, and I go back to working with it. I find personally that this is the better way to do it, because especially when you're doing both, you're going to untwist all of this when you knit the other direction. So you twist it one way when you do the under, and then our second row, we're going to, instead of passing the second purl under the first one, we're going to be passing the second purl over the first one. So that will give you the other half of that nice chevron 3D braid, and it will also untwist your yarn. If you decide to only do half of it, that's okay, because we're going to continue the heel the heel in this case, in one color, so just chop off the other one and pull it out of the tangle, and continue on with your life. So here we go. Again, trying to keep that twist at bay. They will kind of bubble up on each other a little bit, but as you knit, you're pulling that out. So I'm not too particular about managing where the other yarn is sitting, I just like to kind of pull it out of the way there a little bit. Color-wise, it's nice and easy. If it's a white stitch, in this case, I'm going to use my white yarn. If it's a blue stitch, I'm going to use my blue yarn. You're just matching it up. You worked every other stitch in the previous row in one of the colors, and those are the ones you're going to use that same color with on this round. So here we begin. So there's that twist is starting to build up again. So I could you know, pull the yarns over each other and undo that twist. What I'm just going to do is give myself a little bit more room, and then give myself enough that it's not tightly twisted, and then just push that twist down the yarn a little bit. And today it's not wanting to cooperate with me very well. It wants to tangle back on itself. But you basically just stretch it out so that it's not all tied up, and the twist will move down the yarn, and you can go back up here. So that's got to go. This one needs to go under, so we just put it under. So there's my white yarn was my last one. My blue one is going to come under it and purl my next stitch, and then white under blue to purl the next one, blue under white, and so on. So there we go. Again, we're just purling this round. So these 2 rows of the braid. Oh, and there I got a stitch that I had twisted, so we're just going to do it the other way. These are the only purl rows in the project. The rest of the project is knit. So for those fans of garter stitch, I have to do a little bit of purling, but it's worth it because the braid looks really cool. So we are getting close. Now when I picked up the stitches, I did pick them up from the edges, not from the center. So I did have to break the yarn and move it again. So I have some extra tails as a result. It's not a big deal. There'll just be a couple extra things I need to weave in when I get to there. If you don't like that, then you can always start it from the corner, wherever you've started and finished picking up your stitches. I preferred this time to do it from the center, mostly because with the full braid, you do get a bit of a jog at the very end because it doesn't line up as evenly, and I prefer to keep all of those at the back seam. So for me it was worth slipping those stitches and cutting the tails and rejoining, just to make sure that I was keeping that in the place where it was going to have the least impact on the design. If you're only doing half the braid, you don't need to worry about that because you don't have a join when you do. You don't have a jog when you do that, or you don't have a very noticeable impact from doing that one. Whereas if you're doing the 2-color one that you do. So this is why I have some extra tails right here. It's just from switching that around. So again, if they're long, that's not going to be the way the stitches. We're going to pull our tails, and they're going to tighten those up. I've got all of my tails back here. So we've pulled all of our tails. They've tightened up those stitches. And these ones I'm not going to try to weave in while I'm going. I'm just going to leave the braid, and I'll just sew them in at the end. But if you're only doing the half braid, you don't need to worry about where you started in the row. It's not really going to make a difference. So if you wanted to start it on one of the corners, you could do that instead of trying to center it. Again, I wanted to make sure that they all went where they were supposed to. So yes, this is going to create a little bit of gnarly mess right here. I try to soldier through the gnarly mess as much as possible because it will fix itself in the next row, I promise. Sometimes the yarn doesn't really want me to let it do that though. So we're almost to the end of this one, so I'll be able to show you what the other one, what what the other side looks like, and it looks to me like I didn't get all of that off. Okay, so this row is underneath, under, and so it's just normal purling. We just happen to have both yarns in front, and we're making sure that the yarn always passes underneath the one that was just used. So again, let's give ourselves a little bit more room here. Almost done. So pull that under, to do that one, under, under, under. So it's going underneath this one, purling normally over that one. We flip it underneath, flip it underneath. Right, so we are here at the beginning of the round again. End of the round, beginning of the round. So as you can see, I have tails that will need to be tightened a little bit there. So we are now at the other end of the round. So you could, if you chose, leave it like this, cut. In my case, I'm going to keep working my toe in the dark blue, so I could cut the white and just keep going. What I would like to do instead is have the full braid. So what I'm going to do, instead of going under, I'm now going to go over. So this is why my yarn is going to start and twisting. So it just needs to trust me a little bit longer. So here we go. We are now on our white. So we're going to go over top. And then here's my white. My blue now comes over top. White goes over top. Blue goes over top. White over top. So you purl both of these rows with the yarn held both in front. The bottom one, it goes under, top one it goes over. You could reverse those, bottom over, top under. You just get your chevrons pointing the other direction. It's not really the end of the world. I just do it one way because that's easy for me, and it makes sure that I have my chevrons going the same way whenever I do them. Which is what I prefer for the pattern. I like having them have the same look. So that's what your Latvian braid is going to look like as you're knitting it. When we look at, so that's the same thing that I've done here at the toe. So you're going to see, this is what it looks like on the front. And if we've got our seams, how they're actually going to line, that's what people are going to see. They're going to see this. You do have this funny jog here at the edge. I'm sure there's a way, we look at it like that. I'm sure there is a way to avoid it. I don't care. This is going to be my back seam. So we're going to go with what's easy and simple and looks beautiful, because this still does look beautiful. When this is a pressed seam, no one is really going to notice the fact that the jogs don't line up perfectly. So it looks good where else where it is, and it gives you that nice just point of demarcation between the knitting and the toe. So that is the Latvian braid tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, please drop those below, and thanks so much for joining me.